like the exact moment when you said, this is a direction that I want to go?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I was sitting in Austin, Texas. I just finished college. I was out there with my lady friend at the time. Cool. She was going to school. I was sitting around thinking about, I gotta do something, man. I was working some job I wasn't really into, and I was like, I gotta go back to school for something.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what do I like? Music, like, without a doubt. So I was like, well, I'm not good enough to play for a living, I know that. So why don't I help people who are good at playing make a living making music? So how do I do that? Go to law school. And so I was like, okay, I'll go to law school, and that was it.
So that all happened in your head. Did anybody like plant a seed or anything like that about doing law or anything like that?
No attorneys in my family. Nobody suggested it to me. I just sort of, it started on a whim, and I've sort of seen it through. School, I wasn't ready for law school.
Okay.
Like the kind of, there was a lot of people in law school that obviously weren't trying to do what I was going to do.
Yeah.
They were all trying to do corporate work or be big litigators, and so I didn't really see eye to eye with a lot of people there. I just said, okay, I got to get through this, pay my dues, and then I'll be able to do what I want. Yeah. You know, I took the classes that, you know, helped me out. Like Bertus Downs, who's REM's manager, was my entertainment law professor, and you know, and he was real encouraging.
Cool.
And I got to do internships that were focused on like helping people that couldn't pay their legal bills that needed entertainment work done. You know, help them get through whatever issue they were going through.
Yeah.
And so that was good, you know, hands-on experience that I got, and it just reinforced the reason I went. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Being that kind of, you know, odd man out, so to speak, where you're got this totally different focus in this area where everybody's focused on their corporate endeavors. Did that give you some level of confidence, like, to pursue it? How did that make you feel?
Maybe it's naivete and maybe some confidence, but I just kind of had a laser-like focus. And I was, you know, in Athens, Georgia is a great music scene, and I had friends that were playing in bands, and so I still got to be a part of that scene. I wasn't totally isolated from being in law school, so I got to keep reminding myself.
Where do your musical allegiances lie personally then?
I'm an indie rock dude at heart. There's nothing I can do about it. I mean, I've got way too many Guided by Voices records. So that whole like 90s merge stuff, Matador record stuff, yeah. I don't want to say pitchfork bands because sometimes, you know, that gets a little hairy, but that's probably where my heart lies. But.
Yeah. What has the music that you've listened to, that has developed honed your ear, how has that affected what you do day to day?
Man, it's tough. You know, there's some acts you listen to and you're like, wow, they've got a lot of commercial potential. And there's some stuff that's you're like, man, this is really, really awesome. As far as music goes, you know, it's all about listening to what the act is trying to do, and then figure out what they're doing well. You know, whether they've got strong melodies, or whether they've got a good singer, or whether their drummer's the man, or whatever, and seeing how they can build around those core strengths.
Unique perspective, because you know you've come from this. You got a law background in terms of education.
Yeah.
That's what you practice, and that's how you see a lot of bands.
Right.
I've talked to recording engineers. They can't stand to listen to albums that are mixed terribly.
Right.
They can't go to shows without critiquing how the mixing is done. So you've got that different personality or perspective.
Yeah.
But you're also a music fan who's seen a lot of different types.
Probably first and foremost.
First and foremost, a music fan.
Right.
Secondarily, you're finding a way to help out these musicians.
Right.
You're embedded in Nashville, Tennessee. From that perspective, what can you see that would be helpful, or that this scene kind of needs in terms of the indie rock, in terms of punk or ska, that would really kind of help grow the scene? Is there anything that's been noticeable to you?
I mean, I think to a degree this town's pretty good about creating certain places for those kind of bands to at least play in front of people. But Nashville, you know, because there's a lot of people trying to, you know, fight and claw their way, there's always this level of competition. You know, well, they're good, but, you know, I could do better. You can just sort of tell that, you know, with some people in the room, but, you know, that's kind of like anti-punk, you know, mentality. I mean, that was more of a band of brothers thing. You know, I think there could always be, you know, new venues, new cooperatives. I haven't been to Little Hamilton yet, but I hear it's a pretty cool place. Plan on doing that. I was actually going to go, but it was some day when the air conditioner was out there, and it was like, I don't know, I didn't have air conditioning
Yeah,
there. It was like
it's
100
exactly
degrees.
right. I heard it was pretty miserable. Yeah.
But you know, it's as more and more people come here, because there's all sorts of people come here. It's not just country. The rock scene keeps getting bigger and bigger, and so as more people come here, I think that'll sort of weed itself out, and people will start banding together. Like, hey, let's let people.
You know, in your position that you want to lend to the national music scene.
I think it's my perspective. You know, being one of the younger attorneys in town, and being rooted as closely as I have been with playing music and hanging out with musicians and appreciating all the sorts of music that's not necessarily selling the big bucks. It's helping people understand that there's somebody that can help them, that believes in what they're doing. You know, maybe you'll make it, maybe you won't, but we're going to work on making it happen together.
Yeah. Have the bands or artists, have they been really receptive to that kind of approach?
Oh yeah, I think so. Some here in town, and some friends that I've had who trusted me as a person, who live elsewhere in the U.S. Like, well, you know, when things start picking up for them, I'm the first person they go to, because they trust me, and they trust that I'm not gonna, you know, try to rob them or send them like a $5,000 bill for 20 minutes work.
Yeah, I mean, has that been an obstacle? I mean, have you had people come in and be like, show total distrust towards you that you've had to like overcome? Like naturally?
No.
Really?
I don't know. And,
Yeah.
and oddly enough, I've had a really good success rate with clients paying me fairly promptly. I don't know if I like become their buddies, or they feel guilty if they don't pay their bills. I'm not going to question it.
Yeah, no, not at all. Take that one and run. You know, we talked about this a little bit before this recorded, but do you work with any specific type of musician? Is there somebody that you court, or is it just kind of?
No, it's really all over the board. Like, there's a couple of bands that I'm trying to get in good graces with right now. One's a three-piece that do sort of like a folky country pop rock thing. And then there's these other guys that just moved here from the West Coast that just bar band awesomeness. And you know, if a band it doesn't really matter to me, as long as, you know, I feel like they're doing it for the right reasons, and they're, you know, I'm not gonna sit there and like beat my head against the wall with people that aren't really that good, but you know, they probably don't need an attorney anyway right now.
As an attorney, your advice isn't always free, but you know.
Did you have that written down?
No, I didn't actually.
Joke, cold.
I know, but I am curious. You know, to upstart bands. You know, bands that you, when you were younger, would have been a fan of, would have gone to a small club to see. I mean, now probably still too. I mean, you go to Little Hamilton to see some of them.
Yeah.
You know, what kind of initial advice would you give them to navigate the waters of growing their band from your professional perspective?
First thing, be as good as you possibly can. Like, don't just go out there and be like, here's our chords, take it. You know, take some pride in your craft, because the better you are, the more people are going to pay attention. And first impressions can make a big deal. From a business standpoint, I wouldn't, you know, jump at the first contract that comes your way, because you may not be getting in return what you're giving away. So really make sure that you're ready, or that a record label or a publisher can really make sure that they're going to advance your career before you start giving away your property rights and what you've made.
Cool. Part of this series, this Records Ramen series, kind of talks about what kind of sacrifices, you know, kind of highlights that hard road that you've had to take, or maybe you're on right now. So, what has been the biggest, or maybe a few sacrifices you've had to make to continue on this path? I mean, you said you had laser vision, and you've stayed on it.
Yeah.
What have you had to give up anything or make any sacrifices that were tough?
No, I just, I've had to, but when you have free student loan money that this is, you know, endless supply, then I was sort of, you know, would spend it more, but, you know, it's a hard gig to just crack into, being an entertainment lawyer in a town that's this competitive. There's a lot of great attorneys here. I don't know, just making sure that when I do have to make like a financial sacrifice, realizing that, hey, I love my job. Every day I go to work, I look forward to doing the work. You know, I may not be making as much as some of these guys that are working downtown doing like multi-million-dollar corporate transactions, but you know, they work a lot more, and they also can't wait to get done.
Yeah.
So I'm just lucky that I love my job, you know, and have to keep reminding myself that.
That's a great setup.
Yeah.
Along the way, though, have there been any naysayers that have kind of been speed bumps in the road or anything?
Not so much naysayers, because I guess I come across as this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
People are like, well, right on. Some of my friends have been like, man, are you sure? Like, you think you're going to stick with this? And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, that's what I do.
Yeah, that's right.
Kind of in the story there, you know,
Yeah.
as far as that conversation goes with them, it's like, this is what I do. This is my goal.